Welcome, Lior and Ben. Today we are talking about what are some things that you should consider when you're adding a team member. Is it your onboarding process that you have to think about? Is it your team culture? Is it just how the team's going to integrate with this new person and all the things? So I'm curious, Lior and Ben, you've been working with teams for years. What are some things that you think is super important when you are adding a new person to a team?
So I think there's two perspectives. I mean, there's the perspective of the person joining the team, and then there's perspective of the team that's being joined. And one thing I've done very practically with teams is it like a skills matrix. So we take people across one dimension, we take skills across another dimension, and we say, okay, these are all of the required skills we need to be a good team. And that's important prefix because it's not necessarily Java and front end development and it's about all the skills necessary to be a good team. And then I've encouraged teams to kind of rank themselves and see where they have gaps, and they've used those kind of things to say, we're deficient here, and how can we close that gap? And sometimes the answer is we can learn that, or sometimes the answer is we need someone else with a plenty of experience to join the team. And the important thing there is that we are recognizing skills that are not necessarily just your standard skills. So it might be we need someone great at planning. It might be someone who's very analytical. It might even be some teams might say we need someone who's great at mediating between people. And in that instance, there's a good framework for you to say, okay, here's a way to say who objectively should join our team. And you could even interview based on those skills. You've identified your gaps, and now you're going to interview based on those skills and have questions that are going to elicit kind of responses in those areas.
Ben, I love that the perspective that you took, because I was so in the headspace of this person has joined. Now, what should you do with them? But it makes a whole lot of sense in thinking about when you are hired, because some people have just like, we need more people, and they just hire another engineer without thinking about exactly what you're talking about. Where are the gaps on the team? What are the things that we really need? And understanding what the roles are on the team so that they can actually hire for that. And also, how are they going to be a fit personality wise? What's the culture of the company? And those are all super important things to think about before even getting to the place of how are we welcoming them onto the
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
So let's rub a little integral on this. So I heard a lot of typological stuff, Ben, in terms of people joining a team. Are they a mediator? What natural elements, what natural talents, or what perhaps superpowers do they bring to the team that maybe we don't know about? So we can also look at it from a 4-quadrant perspective, where you mentioned skills, right? So that lives on the upper left. But would also, if we look at the experience of the joiner versus the team itself, so then on the upper left for the joiner, we want to make sure that they feel welcomed and that they feel brought in. On the lower left, you've got the relationships with the team. And then on from the perspective of the person, we could talk about the team next because the team has its own upper left, right? And then from the perspective of, I'm going to go to the lower right first, because onboarding is ridiculously painful. So we've all had the experience of like, oh yeah, I'm still waiting for my laptop. I don't have the login to this thing, right? So streamlining the onboarding process or creating some kind of repository of like, here are the ways that you can get what you need if you want to do self-service. And then there's obviously the result that the person is creating, which they're going to need a little bit of time to integrate and get up to speed in order to get. Do one of you want to take the 4-quadrant perspective of the team?
Well, I was just gonna, before we jump into that, I was just thinking as you were saying that, obviously the holonic structure means that the individual is the holon below the team that they are joining. So from what you've just said, like we need them to feel welcome, or to put it another way, we need them to be healthy in their act of joining the company for us to be healthy as a team. So, it's not just the individual's 4 quadrants that we need to satisfy for the individual. We need to satisfy the individual's 4 quadrants for the team. because we know that if we bring in the wrong team member, or we bring them in a suboptimal way whereby they're not bought in, or they don't feel comfortable, or they're like, oh my God, who have I just signed up for, because it takes 2 weeks to onboard, then they're not going to contribute to their fullest in the team, at the team holon, and they're not going to enrich the team holon.
Yeah, another way we can look at this is through the integral levels. So from the amber perspective, you want to feel like you're a part of the group. You want to feel a sense of belonging. From the orange perspective, you need to be able to achieve. You need to feel successful. You need to feel like you have what you need in order to accomplish the role. From the green perspective, you want to feel liked. You want to have healthy relationships. You want to make sure that folks are appreciating what you have to offer, and there's harmony and caring and trust rippling throughout the team. So in order to have an integral result, you need all three of those things.
Yeah. So how do you think, in the framework that I described, Leo, I think I've probably not expanded it to be completely integral, because I've taught, I think let's be honest, the framework which I described, which was skills against people, those skills for most people will be very specific. Can write great Java code, or can test using unit test frameworks or something like that. And then with some teams, it's been extended to say, like I said, is a great mediator, or other skills, like is organized or plans well. If we were to extend that framework to be more integral, what other elements would you expect to see in that framework?
Well, you're talking about the difference between soft skills and hard skills, I think. There's more we can add to that, but I mean, it's a fair point that soft skills are often overlooked. And that's one of the reasons why, Agile sometimes, teams sometimes struggle with Agile results, because you need the hiring for Scrum Masters, right? The Scrum Master needs to have those soft skills, but other team members also need to have some ability to engage in that way. So that's an intangible, right? So you said the hard skills, and the hard skills result in the right side results, and the soft skills result in the left side results. And either one of them could be key to your success or failure.
Yeah. So we talked about the framework, and we said, okay, so we can ask questions like, okay, talk about a time when you had to plan for something where there wasn't enough information or something. So we can ask questions that elicit other skills that are not necessarily traditional skills that we might have hired for. If we're evaluating a potential team member, should we explicitly kind of say something like, feels like they would be a good fit for the team, on a scale of 1 to 3? Like, every member of the team should interview them, and every member should answer feels like they should be, and that's like it's a lower left, I guess, for the team. Like, feels like they would be a good member of this team. Does that sound reasonable? I think it does.
I think it's very reasonable, and I would probably, just because I feel like a lot of my perspective lives in like the lower left, like culture, the vibe of the team and how the team dynamics are. I feel like that could be the thing for me. I've seen override some skills. Like, you might have one of the best developers join your team who's the most talented, but if they're difficult to work with, you're not going to get a lot out of them, because they're not working with the team. They could be working against the team. And it could also possibly affect the other teamwork, because maybe some people feel low morale because they now have this person on the team who is toxic and wants to do everything their way. Whereas if you have a team of mediocre developers who are really good at working together, you might actually get more value out of that group of developers versus having a bunch of very talented developers who feel strongly about what they're doing. Maybe if you already have a pretty fully formed team and you're looking for one more person, but you already have the very outspoken one and you already have the very collaborative one, maybe you want to go somewhere in the middle. But I do think it's something that people should be thinking about when you're thinking of building a team. It's not just based on skills. It really is about the team dynamics, like who's going to be the one taking charge. If you don't have a set team lead yet, or maybe your team lead isn't as outspoken as you'd like, and you do want someone who's going to be a little more opinionated about process, and I think that those things should definitely be considered. I don't think
And
it's considered enough.
as
So
you said that, Alana, well, just as Alana said that, you said, fit for the team could override skills. And it made me, reminded me of just a one-liner that people would say when they're trying to build their teams, which was don't tolerate brilliant jerks. And I think that's the summation of what you've just said. Don't tolerate brilliant jerks. You can be the most brilliant, but if you're a jerk, we don't want you on our team.
Yeah, you could be holding the team back. It doesn't matter how brilliant you are. Like, I don't care if you're Steve Jobs. Like, you could be holding back the entire team if you're difficult to work with. I've seen it happen a lot more than people would think. And I think like a lot of companies just assume we're going to hire this super talented person who's done XYZ, but a lot of what they've done was maybe just in a vacuum on their own. It doesn't mean that they're going to be a good team player and someone that you necessarily want on your team.
So we've talked quadrants and we've talked levels, but it really feels like the key element here is types. And types isn't something we go into often enough, I think. But really what you're talking about is from a typological perspective, make sure that there's a fit. You need your analytical person, you need your practical person, you need your leader, you need your follower. These different typologies gel. If you have too much of one thing or too much of another thing, it's going to be very difficult for folks to collaborate. So if there's a takeaway that we're going to leave everyone with, sure, use a 4-quadrant perspective to make sure that both the individual and the team are healthy. Perhaps have them interview and see if there's a fit on both sides. But really, types are the key element for this idea.
So, Leo, just a one-liner then before we wrap up. Do you have could you just mention a couple of headline typologies that a team could go and say, I'm going to Google this, I'm going to take this questionnaire, and it's going to show us whether this person is a fit from a typology perspective?
So there's many different typological perspectives out there. I'm not an expert on all of them. I know that, you've got Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, and there's dozens more. In a general sense, each one of them has their own framework and their own recommendations with regards to compatibility. So pick the one that works the best for you. You might have your own favorite, and just make sure, just from a general practical sense, you don't have a team that's full of followers. You don't have a team that's 100% introverts or 100% extroverts. And these types of ideas are in those typological assessments.
Yeah. So Myers-Briggs. If I'm going to Google anything, I'm going to Google Myers-Briggs, and that will open up this typology space for me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Myers-Briggs also has things specific for teams. There's a lot out there, but if for whatever reason you're someone who's the surveys or typology stuff feels daunting or like too much, think of just interview questions that would get the information out of a candidate. Like if you know that you really want your team to be cross-functional and getting people to coach others on the team is really important. Maybe ask them what they would do in a situation if a team member doesn't have as much knowledge as they do, or how would they level up the team knowledge, and just kind of see their thought process through if they are someone who could be a potential mentor, how they would do a knowledge transfer sessions, or are they someone who's like, no, I would rather just do it myself because I'm going to do it faster. And that's going to tell you a lot about a candidate. All right. Anything else, guys? This was awesome. Thank you, Lior and Ben. This has been an awesome session about what to consider when you are adding a team member. Please let us know what you think in the comments below. If you have any additional advice to what we've gave today, we'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. That's a tough word. Subscribe to our channel for more videos. We've got some great information for you there, and we will see you next time.